Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello and welcome to Business Innovators Radio. With me today, I have advocate for men's mental health, Henry Johnstone, and he's with us today to talk about how to access your king, or indeed your queen's energy. Hi, Henry.
Hey, Luana. What an amazing honor to be here with you today.
It is so awesome to have you on, and this is a switch of places, isn't it? You've interviewed me, and now here we are reversing the roles. It's all very exciting.
Tables have turned. Be gentle, be gentle.
I can't promise anything, Henry. Right, so I love everything that you're about, and this is why I wanted to interview you. I think your message is so powerful, so it's so needed at this time. So let me ask you first of all, what is the king or the queen's energy, and how will learning to access that energy benefit the people who are listening today?
So the best way to frame this is to think of what people perceive the king to be. And I want anyone listening, I want you to think of the tyrant. So you've got a tyrant who lives in a really big castle. He or she is very mistrusting of other people. You probably think they're quite insecure, won't let anybody in, very, very defensive, keeps everything sort of by his throne, and is got a bit of a Mardy bum. And if you're not British, a Mardy bum is someone who's just a bit of a grumpy old git, right? And then you think of the king. Now, the king lives in exactly the same castle. It's well defended. You walk in, you're happy there because you know the space is taken care of, and you know that the king is honorable, he is righteous, and he is a safe place to be. And you are happy to be ruled by him because he is congruent. He is honorable. He is a good leader. That is the king energy, and it is uniquely an adult energy. The tyrant energy is actually very childish, and the king energy is you complete as an adult. And the great thing about the king energy is that nothing is a risk to the king, because he or she or the queen knows themselves so completely that they can be their absolute authentic self in any situation, and they will always be celebrated. They are cherished, they are celebrated, they are respected, without question.
What an amazing explanation.
Thank you.
Absolutely brilliant. So you work with mainly men, and you talk about the king's energy, but just to, women can also do this, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I do have some female clients, and what they tend to do, sort of, I ask them, which one sounds best to you? Is it the queen or is it the goddess? And they often choose which one. And it means the same thing. It's someone who is congruent within themselves, and people will follow, people will respect, people will cherish, and people will celebrate.
I love it. I also love that you're making sure that they're seen as somebody who is worth following, who's got strong values. So this isn't about somebody commanding people to do as they say and, to lead people into chaos. This is somebody with strong values who's doing good in the world.
Yeah, and that people will willingly follow because they are good people. No, the king is good, the queen is good. And the queen is so confident, and it's almost about charisma. Anyone listening, and I'll ask you the same question: are you more likely to happily follow someone who speaks to you if they're not charismatic? If you know that they're questioning themselves, if you can feel that they're not quite comfortable in their own skin?
It's the energy, isn't it? Yeah. Quite often, I think when somebody's like that, you don't know what it is, but when somebody's really sure of themselves and really confident, I'm drawn to that energy. I want to be around that person.
Yeah, because it gives you a safe place to be and express. So like something that I do, I'm very in touch with my king energy. And as you know, as you will have experienced me, I'm very comfortable with talking about my emotions and being vulnerable. And vulnerability is key to unlocking the king or the queen energy. Because if you want to do it, you have to be incredibly comfortable with things that have posed a risk to you in the past. You have to be. And it allows other people, like when you enter into a space and like, so I was at a very corporate meeting the other day. I was very out of my comfort zone. And I thought, I'm going to step into my king energy. I'm going to honor myself as I am in the moment. And they're like, hey, Henry, how you doing, Dylan? I said, do you know what? I'm feeling quite vulnerable at the moment. This is really out of my comfort zone, but I'm okay. How are you feeling? And it just blindsided them. Never heard that before in their life in the corporate environment. But immediately after that, people were drawn to me because I presented myself as a man who wasn't afraid, who was more in touch on a deeper level, and it wasn't a risk to me. So their vulnerability wasn't a risk to me. So they could be vulnerable. I held that space for them to be more themselves and to be seen.
I can totally get that. For anybody listening, this is because, you know, we had a conversation last week, didn't we, Henry? And I said to you then that you've got this skill of being able to make people feel comfortable and to open up. We were having a conversation about something completely different. And the next thing I know, I've let everything out, and I'm like, oh, what's going on here? Right, it's Henry just working his magic. That's all.
Well, that's it. That is it. In its essence, people will feel comfortable around you, and they'll feel held, and there will be no risk. That is the king or the queen in a castle welcoming people in.
Amazing, and I love that you talk about vulnerability because I think. Tell me if you agree with this, but I think that when people think of kings and queens, sometimes they may have this misconception that they're so always switched on, that there's never anything wrong with them, you know, that they're that they've got everything together all of the time. And that's just not true, is it?
No. Like, the strength of the king is knowing that he needs help. He can ask for help because he has his community around him. He knows, or she knows, that to be a better leader, he or she needs to invite his tribe in to help him or her. And that's okay. And that takes a level of vulnerability because you're in a place of leadership. You know, you're expecting people to follow you. So it's kind of, it's not intuitive to go, do you know what? I'm struggling with this particular aspect of where we're going. I recognize that you are the best person to help me with this. Will you come on board and help me? And that's the best thing to do. People go, oh my God, I've been seen by my leader. I've been recognized by my leader. He's just told me, or she's just told me that he is missing, or she is missing a part in his leadership skill that I can fill. I don't know if I can swear, but F me, that's a powerful thing for me to experience.
Brilliant. And so true. You know, no king runs a kingdom on his own, does he?
No.
The king's got so many people around. Yeah, I love that. Let me ask you this. So, you turned your life around from near death.
I did.
To committing to your legacy. What can you tell us about that?
Wow. Okay. I'm aware we've only got 25 minutes in this episode, so I've got to nutshell this. I lost everything by the choices that I made. I'm a big believer that no one has the power to make us feel anything. No one has the power to make us choose anything. And I really came to a point where I'd lost everything. My health, my state of mind, my family, my friends, my job, any money that was coming in. And I just had to take extreme ownership. If I made these choices, I made this happen. What can I do? No matter how big the mountain of recovery seems, what can I do to take back control. And that was the first time the king energy came up inside me, because it's that responsibility for my kingdom, for my heart, for my sacred self, to build the magnificent castle, which I knew I could. I just didn't know how. So I was aware. I took responsibility for aspects of myself that I knew I could improve. And these are things that I was hiding from myself. So fear of rejection for speaking my truth was a big one for me, because I thought when I was a child, I used to speak my truth and be rejected. So fast forward to being an adult, I was afraid of speaking my truth for fear of being rejected. What's happening there is that my wounded child, the tyrant, was taking over my adult self. He was overruling the king energy. I was willingly letting my 7-year-old self come in to a 36-year-old man's body and make all the decisions. And I recognize.
I'm laughing here because I resonate with that so much.
Yeah, but it happens, and we're not aware of it, because we think we're coming from, I'm hurt, so I'm gonna go on the defensive. But it's not. It's your wounded child inside you taking control and dictating how things go. And it's a case of enough is enough. A child needs direction and nurturing. It needs to know that it is safe. And I'll get on to how you access the child part of yourself so you can bring in the king or queen energy. But that's what I did. And I just kept on repeating that process. Whatever made me feel uncomfortable and vulnerable, I went ahead and I did, knowing full well that whatever happened was the best thing that could possibly happen, because I was speaking from a place of truth.
Amazing. What challenges did you find when you were going through that process? You know, when things were starting to click into place?
Oh, as every entrepreneur ever on the earth will recognize, Wait, hang on. Okay, sorry, my microphone just disconnected randomly there. Sorry about that. Is self-doubt, feeling like I was an imposter, feeling like no good would ever come from the work that I was doing. It was holding on to, because I had a vision of a man who was in touch with his emotions, who spoke his truth, who was confident, who was the sensitive man that I got rejected for being. I wanted to be that guy. And it was holding on to that vision and following it with my truth, which was been the hardest thing to do. And I'm talking about going into your coaching business. So I'm talking to all the coaches here, finding the niche. There's a lot of pressure to find the best niche for you. And I jumped in way too soon, and I tried to be the coach that I thought everyone else wanted me to be. So I was thinking about everyone else. So I was taking the pressure off myself and trying to make a decision based on what millions of people wanted me to be. I was inside their heads, which is ridiculous. I'm not God. I simply don't know. So I became this coach. I was a confidence and performance coach, and I was unhappy because I was fulfilling a false dream, something I felt under pressure to do. And it wasn't until I kind of had a breakthrough and I was like, do you know what? This isn't working for me. What is my truth? What am I hiding from myself? It was the fear of failure. What if I fail? What if my dream doesn't live up to itself? What if it's just built on a foundation of nothingness? What if every empowering thought I've had about myself is wrong and it falls flat on its face? That is the biggest challenge, because it is great coming up with an idea. It is great exploring ourselves. I always say that the moment before action is pregnant with possibility, because that's when we allow ourselves to dream and think, oh, it could be this, it could be that. But taking those first steps into actual action is when all of that comes under question. And that's what happens. So it's maintaining the vision, because that's the power. That's where the king energy sits, is within that. Things aren't going well at the moment, but I'm going to hold my course. I am on the right path. I am going to continue building this vision regardless of what it takes. And you can notice the child coming in there. You know, if you're in this process, I want to give up. It's someone else's fault. I'm not as good as the other person. There'll always be someone better than me. That's the child. That's the child trying to protect you and get you to step back.
So what do you do in that case?
So what you do is you look inside and you become very aware of the one emotion that keeps on coming up consistently. Mine was self-doubt. So I sit with that emotion and then I track it back. When was the first moment I experienced self-doubt? And I almost guarantee I was a kid, I was in class, I put up my hand for the first time ever of like, I know the answer to this, but I didn't get the answer right. So I put my hand down. Self-doubt. Can I really trust my thoughts when I speak my truth? So you track it back to that moment where you feel it most intensely and you write it down. You acknowledge it. You spend a bit of time in meditation and visualization, seeing your childhood self, experiencing the pain that they went to. Really feel it, really accept it, that it came from you. And then you visualize your best self, your kind, loving leader. You welcome in the sovereignty, the sacredness of the king or the queen into your visualization, and you talk to both of them. Now, the child will have something to say, and it may well be the child has something to say to you for a very, very long time, but you haven't been listening. You let them speak. You listen to what they needed back then, which you weren't able to give yourself. You let the king speak, hear what he says to the child. You hold them both and welcome them inside to you. So from that experience, and it goes very, very deep, very, very quickly, you'll know the unmet emotional need that you had as a child. And then you'll have the action that you need to take to accept and to love yourself, which is going to heal that. And then from that, you look to your situation. I feel like this. This is what I need. How can I take action in this moment to meet that emotional need? For me, it was, I'm going to talk about what I really, really want to do for my business. I really need to heal the child who was full of self-doubt. I need him to hear that assuredness. I need him to see that I'm taking action on this, and I need to face that fear. And that's exactly what I did. And do you know what happened? It was celebrated. I was cherished and I was respected.
Yes. A lot of people would have just, blocked out that self-doubt, wouldn't they? But it keeps coming back.
Well, that's it. I think people do block it out because it's uncomfortable, but it's uncomfortable because it's coming from a really deep part of yourself, which is shouting for you to address it. But we don't know how to address it necessarily. And the steps that I've just spoken you through, that is exactly how you go about addressing it. Yes, it is visual. It is based on a visualization, but you need to engage a part of your body which is not your head. Because if we stay inside our head, we intellectualize everything and it just goes round in an echo chamber. Need to integrate the body, the feelings. We need to release it, accept it, acknowledge it, take responsibility for it, and take action on what we have learned.
How do you integrate the body?
Integrating the body is simply going back to that place and feeling that emotion, feeling. And really good thing to do is to feel it. Feel the sensation of where it is. Is it heavy? Is it light? Is it warm? Is it cold? Does it have a texture to it? You situate it inside yourself. So that if you pressed, like, all my self-doubt comes from inside my chest. And you remain aware of that. So each time it comes up, I put my hand on my chest and I acknowledge it. And I take responsibility for it. That I created this to protect me from feeling rejected. Am I going to let myself be rejected? No. How do I do that? I speak my truth and I believe myself and I stand by my word. And when I need to, I speak up and I say it. That is me leading myself in personal leadership.
Yes, really, really powerful. Okay, so if somebody's doing that exercise that you've just shared with us, what if they're struggling to think of what that moment was, to pinpoint what the event was?
That's absolutely fine. It does happen. It's not immediately, like, off the bat, the easiest thing to do. Some people struggle with this. So don't and I think what happens when people go into this state, they think, I can't think of it. Oh my God. And you're right back in the head again. And your head's taken over. And that's not where you want to be. So it's okay if you can't think of the moment, but you want the feeling, the feeling that remains the most consistent. And it actually helps to you can go anywhere on the internet and give a scan of the 192 emotions that exist and just scan through that. That'll give you more of an expanded language to describe what you might be feeling. So it might be pensiveness. And if it's not quite pensiveness, what is it? Is it rejection? Is it fear of judgment? Is there a little bit of excitement there? It's emotions are incredibly nuanced. You just get down to the emotion which is the strongest, and that's where you start from. You say, okay, in this exercise, I'm dealing with pensiveness. I created this pensiveness. I don't know where it came from, but I know that it's there, and I know that it's intruding on my life as it is now. That is my child. I'm going to welcome in the king who is going to heal that part within this dialogue that happens in a reflective space. From that, I'm going to take action, which gives me something that I need, whatever it is that you need to meet that emotional need of feeling pensive. Maybe you need certainty. So how do you find certainty? Go out and find that certainty, and you'll know what it is because you've been resisting going there for fear that you'll always feel rejected and you'll go back to feeling pensive. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
Good.
Wow. Well, that was gold. That's something that anyone listening can go and start doing today. And it can be incredibly powerful. Where can they find out more about you?
So at the moment, I am on my website and through my podcast. I am going through a migrationary stage onto a new website, which is operating under King's Forge, because as you know, I'm a metal worker and I do metalwork retreats, which really helps people engage with the king inside them and step into the king energy and use that king energy to enter into a metal workshop and create art, which means you have to take responsibility, you have to be aware of your emotions, and you have to be able to talk about your emotions all the way through the process.
Tell us more about that. That's interesting.
So it's the only one of its kind in the world.
Wow.
And I created the King's Forge Metalwork Retreats because metalwork saved my life. I was rubbish at everything. And I failed consistently in everything. I had all these emotions blocked up. My child self was in full control. My king was nowhere to be seen. So when I got in a metal workshop and I picked up a welder and I joined steel to steel, I was good at that. I could do that, and it was different, and it was cool, and it was a bit dangerous, and I could take responsibility for this piece of equipment which no one else was doing, and it really centered me in an empowered space. And there's something about creativity which takes the intangible and makes it tangible. So if you're depressed and you're holding yourself back with some self-limiting beliefs, you can go in the workshop and just be aware of that. And as you work with steel, as the steel changes, your emotional state changes as well. And you're able to recognize, it's like all these emotions are tied up into a ball and they're all kind of very confusing. You don't know which is which. But as you work with the steel, it just loosens and it comes up. And people can come into the workshop and say, I'm a bit afraid. I'm really anxious. I'm rubbish at art. I can't do any of this. That's all just BS. They can do it, but they just need the time and the space to explore that. And that's what happens in the workshop. And it's magic. It is absolute magic. What happens, the transformation that can happen in a few hours, because they can come out and they go, I was struggling finding, where that point of fear of being rejected was. But now I know. It came to me whilst I worked with the steel. Now I know what it is. Now I know what emotional need I have that was being unmet. Now I know how to heal the child. And my king is telling me that I can do that. that I can take action, that I can do this thing that I've been resisting. I've been resisting standing up and doing a presentation for fear that I was going to be rejected. But now I know that it was my child that was afraid, and my king won't let that happen. My king has me. My king emerged in the steel, in the fire, in the sparks.
Absolutely brilliant. Henry, you've been a complete legend.
Thank you.
To finish off now, we have a very serious part of the show.
Okay.
Now, you're going to get to choose one business idea or practice. And today, Henry, you get to throw that in the bin, never to be seen again. What's it going to be?
One business idea or practice. Oh, do you know what it would be? It would be listening when I did to all the naysayers who were trapped in their child energy, who tried to tear me down.
Oh, yes.
All those ones of like, you can't do that. That's a bit of a grand dream, isn't it? What are you doing?
Oh.
It'll never work. All these children who are desperately jealous of the wonderful king's vision.
Totally with you on this one. Let's get rid of it. Let's eliminate it. Let's throw all of that right in the bin. It's gone.
Oh.
It's gone.
Oh. See you later, guys. Enjoy the bin.
Henry, thank you so much. You've been absolutely incredible. To anyone listening, thank you so much. Always remember, you weren't born to be ordinary, you were born to shine.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.